What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Early Edge. Happy Thursday, which of course means happy Thursday night football. But we got a lot more to talk about. It's not just football, it's going to be NBA. We've got a completely packed show with some NHL picks as well. Speaking of picks, we're going to bring something back. Let's check out the recap screen real quick. Oh, this looks really nice. Proppy, of course, goes 2-0. That Joel Embiid prop was amazing. They actually stopped the stat sheet at infinity. He scored so much. Martin Green, 1 for 2. I hit mine. What is this? 7 out of 8. We really crushed it yesterday. Or is that? Yeah, it is 7 out of 8. Good job. We are not just conveniently bringing back the recap screen on a day where we crushed it. You'll see it tomorrow. You'll see it from here on out because I know there were some people clamoring for that. Totally makes sense. That is back. You know who else is back? Let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show because we've got some newcomers and we've got some old school peeps, some of the regular crew. Oh my gosh, this is an embarrassment of riches. Griffin Carroll is here, but before I introduce you, Griffin, he's going to be our NHL capper. Mike McClure, my partner in crime on Fantasy Football Today, DFS, which you can catch tomorrow at 11 o'clock with me and Mike. Mike, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Sia. Fired up for Thursday night football as always. A little sad that we have a short college basketball slate. I know a lot of you love college basketball totals with me. I think it's the slowest college basketball day of the entire calendar year, unfortunately. But fired up to be back, fired up to be here. It's going to be a good show.
Well, Mike, no worries because we have an electrifying Thursday night football game with a 30-point total. Sarcasm. Griffin Carroll, you are joining us. This chat has been yearning for an NHL capper. Not that we don't have any on SportsLine, but you've been on SportsLine. We wanted somebody on the show. You are here. Welcome to the Early Edge.
Yeah, I'm pumped to be on. It's been a long time coming. Good timing too with 13 hockey games and this horrible Thursday night game. So excited to be here. Excited to see what everybody's on tonight.
By the way, shots fired by Griffin saying a horrible Thursday night game. He's right, of course, but let's check out our first marquee matchup. It is that very same Thursday night game, the Patriots versus the Steelers, Bailey Zappi versus Mitchell Trubisky. And by the way, this isn't even the worst quarterback matchup the NFL has had this season, so that's kind of hilarious. We have a 30-point total. It's a 6-point spread. The Steelers at home. Mike, I'm kicking it to you right off the bat here. I know you have a pick in this game. Okay, so do I in terms of against the spread, okay, on the side. This is a 30-point total, though. Any thoughts on this total?
It is historically low, essentially, considering who's going to be on the field overall, though. It's hard to want to go anywhere but the under. The only thing that I would say in that, though, is these offenses are bad. The defenses are certainly above average. We could see a number of short fields. So I'm not touching the total. I know the big, heavy lean for a lot of people would be to the under. Not a lot has to go right to reach 30 points in an NFL game here. So I'm staying off the total here. If you made me play it, I actually would lean to the over in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Danny, I'm going to go to you next. Buckets, don't worry. You and I are going to talk soon. No worries there. Danny, do you have a read on this side or this total?
Yeah, with a total, a historically low total like M Squared mentioned, I have to take the points. It's disgusting, and it's medicine that you're going to need a tasty beverage to wash down with. But Patriots +6 are nothing for me in this spot. I feel like it's too many points to give the Steelers, who rank number 1 in the luck rankings. I've been betting against the Philadelphia Eagles for the last 3 weeks, against the Bills, against the Chiefs, and finally got it against the Niners because they rank number 1 in the luck rankings. The ball's been bouncing their way. And the same can be said about Steelers, who are not a 7-win team. So even though it's really gross, Patriots 2-10 against the spread this season, if you've been betting on them, you have not been happy. I'm going to try to, as they say, catch the falling knife here and take the points in an ugly, ugly matchup.
Catch the falling knife. Is that something that they say? That's news to me. Buckets, is that something that they say? Catch the falling knife. Is that something that you say? Do you have a pick on this game?
A lot to unpack there. Catch the falling knife is definitely something that I say daily first and foremost. And yes, I do have a pick on this game, but unfortunately, it's not one people are going to like here. And I would like to apologize, first of all, Sia. I know my lighting is a bit off here. The move has been difficult considering I have now ordered 6 different things to my old address. So my old apartment is just stacking up boxes. My lights, my blackout curtains, everything is absolute nonsense. But my pick on this game is going to be the under, basically because I've never seen a point total at 30. And I feel like when you do see that, there's probably a reason it's happening, but you got to remember that I have very little NFL knowledge. I just like to start a little bit of chaos here. So give me the under on that one.
Buckets, and I like to hear your voice, and that's why I went to you. And by the way, Snug the Cat agrees with you. I believe in the chat earlier, he said this total should be 13.5. And honestly, this thing could be 10-3. This could be 10-3. So hang on to that thought. By the way, if you want to bet on this game, or if you want to get a bonus, where can you do that? How about BetMGM? Oh, I see you, Jamie Foxx. BetMGM has all the action for every sports fan. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get a first bet offer up to $1,500. If your first bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets with bonus code EDGE1500. That's EDGE1500. All right, well, listen, we got to get to our next marquee matchups in the NBA. But before we do that, one little message from our partners.
On the next NFL Monday QB, with only a month left on the regular season calendar, the Week 14 slate is filled with divisional rivalries. Go under center on the only NFL show all about quarterbacks. Monday on CBS Sports Network.
All right, next up, we've got our marquee matchups in the National Basketball Association. Let's bring those up. Really interesting game to start off here. We got the Pacers at the Bucks. Look at this total, everybody. This is one of those like cartoonish moments where you clear your eyes a little bit and you're like, well, that can't actually be the total. Is this an all-star game? No, it's not. It's Pacers Bucks. It's a 256.5 point total, 5.5 point spread. I'm curious, Mike, do you have a lean either way on this side or on this total?
I do. I have leans on both, actually. I lean under on the total, lean under to the Bucks, or lean to the Bucks covering. But when you look at this game, you mentioned the total, obviously. That's what everyone wants to talk about. Pacers have been a massive over team this year. Not only are they playing with the quickest pace, they've been the most offensively efficient team so far. I don't expect that to last throughout the entire season. Milwaukee really hasn't tried to play a ton of defense yet. They've been playing with a lot of pace themselves, trying to outscore people. The further we get into this tournament, the more it actually starts to mean. That's when I expect a little more defensive effort there. The other thing to consider is the travel situation. Going to Vegas here, they obviously had 1 day off in between, but you have the travel. Now you're playing at a little bit of altitude, and that does matter in a basketball game like this, especially when you're trying to play at the pace these teams are playing at. A lot has to go right to hit a number like this. I liked the opening number. That's right about where the computer had it. That opening number was 249.5, still an incredibly high number, one of the highest you'll see all season in the NBA. But I thought that number was appropriate. I would wait to bet it still. I do not expect it to fall. I expect it to stay where it's at and potentially continue to rise leading up to game time. But I do lean under. As our good friend PropStars likes to say, a lot of things have to go right for this to work out. Anything goes wrong at all, it's very difficult to hit this number.
Yeah, totally agree there. I lean to the under there as well. Notable that this game starts, unless I'm wrong here, I think we saw it on the graphic at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So we've got some kind of early evening, late afternoon basketball. I also, for whatever it's worth, I lean towards the Pacers here. I think it's 5.5 is too much, especially with the lack of defense that we sometimes see with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'm not 100% sure this team is clicking. Maybe this one means a little bit more to Indiana. So I think 5.5, maybe a bit rich there. Let's go to the next game, Mike, before we get into our best bets from everyone. We've got the Pelicans at the Lakers. This one at 9 o'clock. Lakers looking pretty good. Favored by 2.5 here. It's a 230.5 point total. Mike, where are you headed in this one?
Exact same spot, under 230.5. I have this one priced at 224 in the computer. When you look at the Lakers, they do not want to play with pace when they're healthy. They want to play a half-court game. I personally think New Orleans is going to oblige there. When you have their big three, they actually have some sneaky length defensively. So I think they're going to be fine sitting in the half-court set a little bit more. And then just the defensive intensity here. The Lakers, LeBron has obviously been very adamant about how important this tournament is, loves playing in Las Vegas. I think this is a game where it's going to be very, very competitive and going to look a lot like that last game that the Lakers played with the Suns. First team to 100 is going to have a really good chance at winning this one. I think it's all defense. Out of the two games, this one feels a lot more like a legitimate playoff game.
Yeah, I lean toward the under. I lean toward the Lakers in this one. Both teams playing super well. All right, listen. You guys are waiting for Griffin Carroll. He's finally on the show. He has picks to give out. You're waiting for buckets. You're waiting for Danny Brasco to shadow box. And, of course, your best bets from Mike McClure and myself. I can't wait to do that either. But before we do that, one more message from our partners.
A Game of Honor. The Army-Navy game presented by USAA. Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, Griffin, we're going to the best bets, and we're going to let you lead here. You know what I love about these NHL picks that I'm seeing for the first time here is that they look prop oriented. And I feel like in the NHL market, listen, sides are great, totals are great. I'm sure there's markets for that. But just in general for me, when I'm betting the NFL, when I'm betting any sport, the NBA, I really like going into the prop market because I feel like that market is just a bit softer than the sides and the totals. I don't know if you agree with that, but it appears that you do because, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got a couple of props for tonight.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I see both sides. Sometimes it is, if I like a team to score and I start digging into the players and then they score 5 times and my players aren't involved, that gets very frustrating. So I do like going to the team total markets and the overs to just, I don't care who's involved. But tonight, I'm not going to pretend to have been able to dig into every game yet with 13, but I find sometimes with the bigger slates, it's easier to just quickly find your favorites. And one of them is something I've been doing for a couple games now. Top line centers who play the Chicago Blackhawks just cannot stop scoring goals. It's now 5 straight top line centers have scored against Chicago. And I'm throwing in JT Compher there, who was taking Dylan Larkin's spot a couple games ago. So I went right to Leo Carlsson on the Ducks to score at plus 240. And I'm happy that it's coincided. I was going to bet this no matter what, but then to see he scored in 2 straight games and has 5 and 4 shots on goal in those games. I love seeing that volume and success against this team that I'm sure everyone's pretty similar with their prop reads. If something against a team is working, it's very hard to ever stop going to that until something changes. So until these centers stop scoring against Chicago, I'm just going to keep betting them to score. So Leo Carlsson at those odds, I really love tonight. I'm happy to keep going if you want me to hop to the other one.
Yeah, you've got a second bet. Let's hear it.
So I will preface this by saying, if you want to just go with the Boston Bruins team total, I totally support that. I think they're going to beat Buffalo pretty handedly. They've got 5, 7, and 7 goals the last 3. Last night, when I knew I was going to be on the show, I was quickly looking at the slate. I went right to Boston versus Buffalo. Buffalo's allowing 4 goals per game on the road, 5th most over the last month. And their penalty kill has been a major problem, 8th worst over the last 20 days. So you could play that in a couple ways, but one thing I'm very excited about for hockey bettors is finally we're getting more same game parlay options, more and more. That's becoming normal in this industry. I'm hoping soon everywhere it's going to be as accepted as it is for NFL and NBA, but finally we're getting some same game parlay options. So there are some very correlated plays you can make here with guys that are on the ice together to combine for a goal. So as you can see here, I'm doing Pavel Zacha point paired with Charlie McAvoy assist at nearly plus 200. You could pair just both of them to get points on certain places, but this is very correlated because these guys are on the ice together. Zacha's the top line center. He's got a point in 9 straight at home. And McAvoy's that top defenseman, often getting these assists. He has 4 in his last 3 games, and they're both on that top power play together. So that's 2 different instances. It could come 5v5, come on the power play where I think Boston's going to score. This could happen in 1 goal. I'm happy if it does, but it can happen in a couple different ways also. So at plus 199, I love the correlation here of 2 guys to just get involved on a goal at nearly plus 200.
Awesome. Those bets sound great. I might hop on. No pressure, Griffin, but I might hop on to that one for sure. Let's change subjects. We go from hockey buckets. Man, I've kept you quiet long enough. You got a couple picks here. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, I think this is the quietest I've ever been on a show, so I'm going to bounce back a little bit here as we talk about the Everton match and Newcastle. And I'm probably going to talk way too much on this, but bear with me. We've got a very bizarre line when we're looking at the match taking place at Goodison Park, and it's a bit of a bizarre line because Everton is a bit of a tricky team right now. They are currently sitting in the relegation zone, but frankly, that's not the players' fault. They got a 10-point deduction due to breaking financial fair play agreements, and because of that, they are now sitting in a position that they shouldn't technically be in. However, they are taking on a Newcastle side. Regardless of how good Everton should be, this Newcastle side is tough and they are dangerous right now. Newcastle just got done absolutely obliterating Chelsea 4-1. They drew at Parc des Princes against PSG in Champions League, which is a ridiculously impressive feat. and then they beat Manchester United right after that. So the fact that I can get Newcastle money line at plus 125 for me is a must bet this afternoon. I know that Everton is tricky. I know that they play kind of a defensive and almost somewhat boring play style because they're just going to park the bus here. But Newcastle, even barring their injuries, should score at least 2 goals in this one. And I don't know if Everton will be able to score at all. So I love that money line. And then we've got a very tricky one this afternoon at 3 p.m. It's tricky not only because this is a Spanish Copa del Rey match, but it's tricky because this team is really hard to pronounce. So bear with me here. We've got Orihuela hosting Girona in the next round of the Copa del Rey. And Orihuela might be a team that we haven't heard of before, but that's because this is a semi-professional team. They play in the 4th division of Spanish soccer. Meanwhile, Girona are top of La Liga, tied at 38 points with Real Madrid. And because Girona is so much better, we should expect absolutely none of their starters to play. And frankly, because they're now fighting for a Champions League spot in La Liga, they probably don't care about this cup much at all here. So I'm going with the classic. Both teams to score at plus 100. Orihuela knows that they shouldn't win this game, but even scoring against a giant like Girona is an accomplishment for this club. And I think that we do see them lose, but not getting clean sheeted here, Sia.
All right, both teams to score. I like that one. Always like the BTTS buckets. All right, let's move on to my pick. I'm gonna talk real quick here. Like normally in Thursday night football, I'm looking for a prop. You all know me. I bet more props than I do sides, and I certainly don't like to just lay money on the favorite. It's usually the public bet. I got to do it here though. I'm actually going to take the Steelers -6, minus 105 in a lot of places. This thing might tick down to 5.5, but I don't think it will. I think it'll stay steadfast at 6. The long and short of it is I don't think the New England Patriots have the weaponry to really score on the Steelers. And you might say, okay, well then why don't you just take the Patriots team total under? And it's partly because of what Mike McClure said earlier. We could have some short fields because of some offensive blunders, defense taking control kind of early or with a short field. So I just want to get rid of that part. I just don't think Bailey Zappi, Ezekiel Elliott, by the way, Demario Douglas is not going to be playing in this game. So we're talking Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton. I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball functionally at Pittsburgh, especially with Pittsburgh coming off of that loss last week. It was an embarrassing loss. Mitch Trubisky, not a huge downgrade from Kenny Pickett. I do think the running game, while it won't get going, it'll be enough. I think George Pickens will be enough. And I think this is one of those games that could end 17-3, 17-6, 17-10. And that's what I'm looking for. So I'm taking the Steelers -6 at minus 105. All right. That's my pick. Danny, I've got the Rocky music going on in the back of my head here. And anytime I have that, I know I'm going to see you shadow boxing and giving out a few picks. What you got, my man?
Sia, let's go. Into UFC we go. Pump the blood up, guys. We got some fights going on, and it's not that exciting of a card. We just came off some pay-per-views, a crazy UFC Austin card, but I don't care. Like I always say, if two people are punching each other in the face, I want to bet on it. So let's jump into it. This card was supposed to take place in China, but it's been moved to Las Vegas now, and a lot of Chinese fighters were featured on it. In the main event, it's Song Yadong versus Chris Gutierrez. Song Yadong is a massive minus 380 favorite, and I'm not going to bet it because the fight has now been moved from China, his hometown where he was going to fight, to Vegas. So instead, I looked back a different Chinese fighter, a fighter that I think has a big experience advantage, and let's kick the UFC picks off with Song Kanan at plus 125 here. He's taking on a guy in Kevin Jousset that's just making his second UFC fight. People are probably going to be on Jousset, the favorite here, because he trains out of the famed City Kickboxing Gym with Israel Adesanya, Alex Volkanovski. He's a long-rangey kickboxer, but Kanan's been in the UFC for a while. He's 5-3 with the promotion, so not the best record, but he's fought a high level of competition. Guys like Ian Machado, Gary, Max Griffin, Alex Morono. And I think that in his last fight, he showed the best version of himself. He was piecing up a tough kid in Rolando Bedoya. So Jousset, long-rangey kickboxer, like I mentioned, but he throws a lot of naked leg kicks. That's when you throw a leg kick without setting it up with the hands. And if he enters range without setting it up, he might catch a left hook to the chin. So give me the dog Song Kanan there for his experience. Let's move on to another plus money play. And I like Nasrat Haqparast by decision. I'm going to take a method of victory bet here. Haqparast is taking on Jamie Malarkey in a fight that I actually low-key think could be fight of the night. This should be a really competitive one. They sort of mirror each other stylistically, both wrestle boxers, and I think they should be in for a very competitive kind of they should be looking at each other skill for skill, jab for jab, right hand for right hand. And I see it coming down to a 29-28 decision that Haqparast edges out by using one key technique. Malarkey often drops his hands. And as the fight progresses, Haqparast is going to be throwing that post jab and that right cross to the body. And the more he lands to the body, even if it's on the guard, Malarkey's going to bring those hands down. Eventually, I think Haqparast comes over the top with the right hand, maybe scores that knockdown, and that's the key difference to get him a decision win. Against two tough, hard-nosed fighters, he wins on the judges' scorecards. Finally, let's close it out with Tim Elliott. He's taken on Sumudarji, and he jumps into this fight on 9 days' notice, yet he's still the favorite. I think that line is telling. Tim Elliott is the cardio king. He weaponizes his cardio. He will outwork you. And I think that's what he can do to Sumudarji here, a guy that is dangerous with his hands, throws these blitzes of straight punches, but he crashes distance recklessly, gets himself in these wild scrambles. I mean, you might as well call Tim Elliott freaking huevos rancheros, because this guy's the scramble king. And if you scramble with him, you're going to end up on bottom. I think Tim Elliott ends up outworking him, out-wrestling him, and winning on short notice. There's a 3-pack of UFC picks for you guys.
3-pack of UFC picks. I'm fired up, by the way. And not just because you gave out those picks in such an energetic fashion, but because the next man picking is none other than Mike McClure. Mike, welcome back to the show. First of all, you have a pick that is at least slightly contrarian to mine, but I got to be honest, both can hit quite easily. Either way, what you got tonight on Thursday Night Football?
Yes, yeah, both of these picks can definitely hit. I'm looking at the Patriots side here, but I'm going to shorten the game to the first half, going 3.5 with the Patriots, taking those 3.5 points. Incredibly key number in general, going to be that hook on the 3, right? Certainly so when you have a total in a game of 30 points and you're getting that 3.5 in the first half of the game. So when we look at both of these teams, they're both really strong defensively, 7th and 8th in total defensive EPA. The Patriots #1 against the run. I think that's significant here. When you've obviously got the quarterback change, you're going to look to run a little bit more just kind of naturally in general. So I think the Patriots are going to be able to stop that run and really force Mitch Trubisky to go win this game. I think that they might make adjustments and figure it out late in the second half. But early in this game, I know that Mike Tomlin's going to play this one close to the vest. They're not going to lose the game in the first half here. They will elect for Boswell field goals. So I think this game's going to be very, very competitive early here. And I think it's just such a friendly number, at 3.5 in the first half here. I think it's entirely possible this game is scoreless at half or, a 3-0 game. Anything like that, though, I think that if the Patriots are able to manage any sort of points in their first 4 drives of this game, they're very likely to cover this number. So I like this spot for it. I'm not touching the full game at 6, but I do like the 3.5, very friendly price point.
Yeah, speaking of Boswell, maybe we see 6-3 at the end of the half and you cash, and then hopefully we can have an explosion of points by Pittsburgh with maybe another 3, and then we get my cover as well. Or I should say another 4, and we get my cover as well. All right, let's take a look at the recap screen real quick. We've got a lot of picks. Man, boy, did we bring it today. We've got Buckets, Newcastle money line, and I'm going to mispronounce all of this stuff. Oriella in Girona, BTTS, Griffin Carroll, Leo Carlson goal, Zaka, and McAvoy assist at +199. And then I've got the Steelers -6. Mike McClure's got the Patriots first half +3.5. Danny Brasco, Song Cannon, money line. Tim Elliott, money line. And Haqparast by decision at +110. Forgive me if I messed up that name. Forgive me, the Haqparast family. I might have messed that one up. But, man, we got a bevy of picks here, gentlemen. We really appreciate that. Let's take a look at the early edge schedule. We have had some changes to the early edge schedule. As you might have anticipated, we've got really everything is still here. Keep in mind the HQ schedule on here as well, especially for Thursday Night Football. We've got TNF pregame on CBS Sports HQ tonight at 7 o'clock. And of course, you see that on Monday. I encourage you to take a screenshot of this. We are still going to have our Sunday Night Football live pregame at 7:30. The Thursday and Monday shows for now, those are away. But again, look at what we have on CBS Sports HQ. We've got a huge cast for that one. If you tune in tonight on CBS Sports HQ for the TNF pregame, you'll see Emery Hunt, you'll see Bryant McFadden, you'll see Pete Prisco, Kenny White, Katie Mox, and many more at 7 p.m. So that's going to be a really exciting show. But ladies and gentlemen, that's our early edge show for today. Of course, you'll be at HQ tonight at 7, among other times, because the content is always continuing there. I will see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. This has been the early edge on behalf of Griffin Carroll, who's joined us, Mike McClure, Danny Brasco, and of course, Buckets. I am the counselor. This is the Early Edge, and we rest our case.